Hello, Blair here of Chaos Costumes to teach you more about Nomad. Personally, I like things that do things. So I made a little can holder because why not? I can't wait to show you the process of how I made this thing, so without further ado, let's get started. So if you remember correctly, last time we made this really cool pendant light, at least pendant light shade. Yes, that. This week, we're going to make a mug again. Mug 2.0. And I want to use a reference image of something I found. It is AI garbage, but we're just going to use it as inspiration. And unfortunately, we won't need the sphere. By sphere, we're going to add a cylinder. Just want to make this cylinder proportional. We will resize it later. And add a box to it. And we will resize the height specifically, so that will be 8. And this will be 0.8, just so they line up perfectly. But we're pretty much doing what we did with the first mug, where we're taking this box and making a panel to add a radial repeater to it. So what we're actually going to do here is reduce the division quite substantially, and use this neat little trick with the subdivide after we validate it, and subdivide it. And since we're not doing linear subdivision, it rounds off the corners nicely. I'll just pull that out so I can see it a little better. And keep subdividing it and deleting the lower. You really don't have to do that, but I like to. Then I'll just go in with a clay brush and turning off symmetry, just carving out a wood texture. And then I'll go in with the crease and kind of carve in deeper lines within this wood grain. And, like the first mug, we're going to go in with the radial repeater. Kind of shrink that in and make little panels, like a barrel almost. And I'll cut out a hole in this cylinder, and I can modify that hole with this menu. And realize that the rectangles are the problem. And I'll move the pivot to the front, so I'm just messing with the back. Now I can go in and clone that cylinder. I'm actually going to use that clone cylinder to make little bands on the outside. And I'll clone it one more time to save it so I can use it later. And make the bottom band, and well, the top band. And I don't like those little dimples, so I'll just pull this in a little bit. Now I can go in with a tube. And that tube is going to become spikes. So I'll just rotate that by 90 degrees, shrink it down. And I'll actually reduce the division to 4, and then toggle the radius, so I can make a little spike, just like that. Pretty easy. And I'll make sure to toggle snapping with the grid on to keep it straight on, and turn off snapping to the shape. And there we go, we got a nice little pyramid spike. I want to tuck this band in a little bit. And when I go to align my gizmo, it winds up in the center of the scene. I don't know what's happening, and it's really ticking me off. Like, why is it in the center of the scene? I told it to center to the object. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just want to elongate that spike. Kind of make it a design element that exceeds past the band. I can go in and add my radial repeater. And just increase the count until I'm happy. I want to add little rivets in between these spiky boys. And I'm just going to drag that down into the radial repeater, because that's easier. And for some reason the gizmo is like all the way over here. I don't understand that. Like, hello? What's your problem, buddy? And I go to align and center, and it puts it in the center of the scene. It's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to center it to the object. The way to solve this problem is just restarting Nomad. All you have to do is restart Nomad. And now the gizmo is doing what I want it to do, which is just center to the object that I placed there. And I'll just reduce the geometry on the sphere to make it more like a rivet. Then I can just copy everything back up there. And I want the band on top to be the same, I don't know, diameter as the other one. So I check the numbers and just type in that value. It's an absolutely random number because we're not making anything to scale quite yet. I can go in and clone our little tube guy. I don't know why I didn't do it with the gizmo, but that's fine. And I decided that I want everything to be a little bit centered, so I moved that down. But I want to clone the spiky boys and do like some more spikes in the middle, because why not? But I want to take it out of the radial repeater because I want all of those spikes to be centered on little planks. And I'll just lengthen those. I don't know, make them real intense, because why not? This is probably not going to be very comfortable to hold, but I figured I'll add another band by just cloning the one from the top. Then I'll add another sphere, because why not? I know we said goodbye to the sphere before, but we're bringing it back. And why are we bringing it back? Because we're making a handle out of this sphere. How you say? With a curve repeater. And that sphere will follow the curve. And I'll just increase the count and change the radius to make it more horn-like. And modify the count now that I've pushed and pulled and changed the size of everything. I can take those individual spheres, decrease the topology actually, because I'm trying something new. Sculpting on a low topology and seeing where it takes me. So I'm just gonna wing it and go in with the crease tool. I know it looks like dog dookie right now, but I swear it's gonna look cool later. I mean, it kind of looks like a rattlesnake rattle, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, just going in with like the clay tool and the crease tool, seeing how far I can push it. Maybe the move tool is the right move, and I think so. Maybe a little pinch in, get those points pointier. And if you look, the topology is really loose. Even though I subdivided it, I didn't bake it in, so that topology is still very, very, very loose and not functional. So what we're gonna do is maybe subdivide it a couple more times and delete the lower. And it kept those facets because I had it on linear subdivision. Now you can see the mesh is a lot tighter. Now I'll just go in with the smooth operation and smooth it down a little bit. And keep going in with the brush and the move and the pinch and the smooth and the crease. Get these horns more horn-like. And I'll use the drag to kind of make those spikes come out a little more. Move that point a little pointier. And then I'll go in and add a cylinder. So I want this to make sense a little bit and make a socket for this horn. And I want to make this horn, I don't know, a little less loose in the design department, so I increased the count a little more. I want to straighten out this tube repeater, and so I just turned on the grid with the magnet to straighten it out. And when I move it unindependently, turn off the shape snapping, or you can just solo it. Let's bring that down a smidge so it lines up nicely. And I'll increase the division of its little socket and just clone that. Increase the diameter a little bit so I can add a lip. I know, we're making it kind of make sense. I know it's like a fantasy object, it's not real, and no one's manufacturing it, but I want to make it look believable. And to add one more detail, I'm just going to make a little boolean tool out of this shape. So I can kind of make a channel. Just boolean out a nice little, I don't know, detail. Make it look more interesting. And I'll shrink that down a little bit, just because I think it's a little too big. And I'll use the smooth operation to smooth out a little bit, just so it's nice and rounded. And same with this guy. Looks like a napkin ring, but we move on. I'm just going to combine all of the repeaters, so I can actually separate them and modify just one of these little guys. Kind of going off of the top right reference. I don't know, I'm just winging it. The same thing with these guys. Just joining them and separating them. Making those taller just by 2, so I can be consistent. Because I want this to wrap around all the way. And another guy that's 2. And then the last little pyramid spike, I'll make taller by 2. Now this cup needs a bottom, or else it's not a cup, is it? And I'll just clone that cylinder, get rid of the hole, and look at it with the X-ray, and just push it down to make a bottom. Now, you can call this pretty much done, but I think I want to add the detail from the top right, which is a little skull in the front. So I'm just going to get rid of that front spike. Just use the existing cylinder that I have in the scene, get rid of the hole, and make it a little frame for our skull guy. I don't like those little 2 spikes poking out, so I'll just delete those. Then I'll increase the division of this little cylinder, make a clone of it, make it a little bigger, and we'll use that as our boolean tool. Now we have this little frame. And I'll smooth that out a little bit, just to round it off a bit. I'll start adding our spheres back into the scene to build our skull. Do another sphere for his bottom jaw. And turning on the x-ray after I validate it, just cutting out that top of the sphere so it's more jaw-like, I suppose. Sculpting organically is definitely trusting the process while you're doing it. Just modifying everything with the move tool. And I can start adding eye sockets. Make everything more proportional before I do that. And we can't forget the nose hole. Then to add teeth, I'm just going to insert spheres. Look at that little cute bunny. Bunny skull. A bucktooth boy. These are my two front teeth. This is the only ones I have. But I will align the skull to push out a little bit. I cannot get over how funny he looks with only 2 teeth. But unfortunately, this boy needs more teeth. So we'll just clone those little spheres over and make more. I'll just take all of that tree with a mirror on it and clone it so I can make bottom teethers. I want them to have fangs because why not? Just kind of validate and push and pull everything around. Make those teeth more rectangular. Add some details to the crease. And I got distracted and started working on the top of the skull because, I don't know, I wanted to finish that. And I can move on to the bottom teeth now that I'm pseudo-happy. Just adding some details with the crease tool. And trying to figure out a home for these bottom teeth. And proceeding to be unhappy with them. So I'll just get rid of them. I can start subdividing this skull to smooth it out a little bit so I can sculpt more on top of it and more details. I'll go in with a smooth operation, but not super smooth, because I do like the texture of the clay tool that I added. Not a big fan of his proportions, so lengthening his forehead a little bit and deepening his eye sockets and pulling out his nose a smidge. I want this to look kind of correct, but I'm not utilizing a reference or anything. Just going by my memory of what skulls kind of look like. I'm gonna make sure he's indie. Oh, this disc back here, I should have masked off the back of the Boolean tool so I could put it essentially on the shape that I'm using, but I didn't think ahead. So I'm just gonna mask off with a select mask and kind of find the center and use that to mask off the little edges here so I can stamp a texture in the middle. Just using, I think it's snow from Procreate that I made into a brush to kind of rough up the middle here so it kind of differentiates between the skull. And I'll blur that mask out a little bit so I can kind of get closer to those edges. And clear that mask. Look at what we got, and it does look pretty good. Increase the division of these bands. You know what? I'm just going to add another band to border that out. Drag that down, make it look more interesting, and trim out the middle of those bands so they're not interfering with the design in the front. Now I can go in, increase the division. And I actually want to round out this disc, so I'm going to use a special little trick where I use the select mask and blur it out, and then I can push back what isn't masked, but in kind of, well, a gradient, to get that medallion to curve a little bit along the front side here. Now I can go in and smooth those little bands just to make them look a little more interesting and a little bit more refined. I'll actually use my little subdivision trick to smooth those out. And I want this wood to be a little less consistent, so I'm going to use the move tool before I get rid of that radial repeater. Kind of push and pull it so it's a little more, I don't know, janky. Like if you really wanted to, you can turn off the radial repeater and sculpt them individually, but I'm not doing that. So I'll just join all these mirrors. And also, you can validate the mirror and join the children, but I don't know. My workflow forgot about that. So we're going to join everything but the skull, because I actually want to move the skull down a smidge. So I'll use the select tool and kind of select around it. And of course I missed something, so we're going to have to get those things. Oh, I think I have everything. That is correct. So I'm going to take this skull assembly, essentially. Just scooch it down a smidge. Now I can join everything. And now to add a sizing cylinder of what actual size we're doing, because we're going to make this into a little koozie. So we're going to add a sizing cylinder, so 116 high, and well, 67. I don't even know if that's a relevant joke anymore, but it seems a little fat, and I don't know how to divide 67 into halves. Hold on, pull out my calculator. There we go. It is 33.5. Yes, that looks more correct. Now we can take our little tiny mug and make it bigger. Just scooch that on over. Get it approximately right. The fit doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And this needs to be a little smidge taller. I just want to make sure the can pokes out the top so you can drink easily without a straw. And then we'll just decimate this boy to the limit. And I think that's a reasonable amount at 110. And now we name it Mug 2. The reason why I name my layers right at the end is because it helps a lot with saving selected. I don't have to type my name of my file. That is it. That is literally it. So let's slice this bad boy. And it has 2,664 non-manifold edges, but we'll fix that. It's because I booleaned it together. And then I'm actually going to push this down a little bit, making sure it prints flat. So you see that little ring that pops up? We want that. And when you hover over it, you can see if you made progress. And then I have the seam aligned. The strength, I want to use the least amount of filament possible, so I'll go with the lightning infill. And then for support, we will need support, mostly for the handle. And I'm just going to slice them. It's looking pretty good. Minimal support, only where needed. Honestly, it probably doesn't need support on the skull, but why not? It doesn't use that much. So let's print them and hope for the best. I don't know, wasn't that a nice little fun project? It is indeed a little spiky, but if you like that, that works. It's not very ergonomic. I think it's pretty satisfying. And some of you may be wondering how I open cans like this. I just use the side of my claw and open them this way. I get like my claw under there and then I can crack it open. It's a lot easier when it's on a surface, but yeah, it does work. And since I made it so that the can shoots up a little bit past the edge, you can sculpt things very effectively. But yeah, I hope you guys like this little project. If you've made it to the end of the video, please like the video. If you have any suggestions or anecdotes, leave a comment down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Every little bit counts. I really appreciate these people for still subscribing to my Patreon. I do release my files, so if you like this thing and you don't want to make it, you can just print it if you have a 3D printer. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.